Here's my take. I think it's extremely possible, and it's happening already, that entire production-ready web apps and other apps are being built with LLMs and AIs. I know this because I'm doing it at Kinzo. And I know this because I know other people who are doing it. Now, I've learned a little bit in my time so far in the last 6 weeks. I've been burning through about, to give some reference and to establish my authority or somewhat, or at least give you some context that I'm not just talking shit. In my CC usage, I use about, according to the tool, about 4 billion tokens a month is what I run through. Let me just I'm just pulling up the exact numbers for now. There we go, we're at 5.2 billion actually. I will zoom in on this for you so that you know I'm not fucking bullshitting you. Those are my credentials. I use it a lot. I'm a big fan. I do a fuckload with it. And I think it's a really, really powerful tool and a momentum accelerator. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of people assume that it will do a lot for you right away. And you can just go, build me app, and it'll go and work, right? While it can do that eventually, you first have to build the system. And now let me explain what I mean by build the system. You need to put in place, first and foremost, for example, if you want a specific design language, build a design system. Use something like Tailwind or Redux, no, not Redux, what's it called? Radix? Radix. For shared UI components that you can style however you like. They can take care of all the accessibility and everything, and all you can do is set the styling, right? You can get an LLM to go, hey, can you just create me a design system that proxies the existing Radix UI so that I can have it locally and design and like tweak it myself and have my own reusable primitives. From primitives, you then can get your design tokens. Then you can automate the generation of your color palettes. You can build a modal registry. You can build a layout manager. You can establish strong patterns with the likes of Zustand and Immer for your state management. If you use React 19, you can save yourself a lot of the manual memoization and such with the React compiler. All of these things are like little things that I do that help feed a system that allows an LLM to really focus on its task. Right? Like if it knows where to get components and shared utilities, and hey, the editor's here, you know, rate limiting is here, your converters to different formats are here, etc., etc. Then it's going to have to spend less time and context on remaking all of those, and it can just read those, understand those, and use those. So you spend a ton of time up front building a system so that on the tail end, you have a ton of momentum already saved up. Look at it as a way of think of it in a way as like you're winding up a spring, right? All of this system building, all of this behind the scenes work to create something that's useful and reusable is winding up the potential energy that you can then release to build the system. Because once you have all of the core pieces in place and it works, then you can fucking scale, because LLMs can follow patterns so beautifully. They're incredibly good at that. And that's what AIs are good at, right? They're good at pattern recognition and following patterns. All they're really doing when they're writing code is predicting what comes next. And if you can take away a lot of the decision fatigue, essentially, or the onus on the LLM to have to make decisions here, you can prevent it from making bad ones. Because if it has to make less decisions, the likelihood of it also making bad ones is also less. Logically makes sense. So if instead of it having to think about, oh, how am I going to make this component, you just say, there's your button, there's your layout manager, here we have one view already, just copy this, just do the same thing as this view and do it over here. And then you can make it run back through and say, hey, look, what shared logic do we have between these two that can be abstracted to be reusable? And then with that, you're adding to your catalog of reusable pieces that the LLM doesn't have to remake and rethink about. Saves context. It's efficient because it doesn't have to write whole components, because writing whole components requires both it planning it and then it executing it, right? That's two token exchanges, essentially, if you want to look at it that way. Whereas if you just go, hey, over here is what you need to use, it'll just understand how to implement that component. Even if it doesn't, if you have strong type checking in place, if you have good linting rules in place, if your testing discipline is strong, you won't even have to worry about if it doesn't get something perfect, because your pipeline will pick it up. And then if you tell the LLM after every single thing that it does to run tests, to run lint, to run type check, to run build, it will do that, and it will be able to validate itself, right? You don't have to constantly be like, no, this isn't working, this is broken. If you have the test coverage in place, it will be able to help itself get to the solution. And then you can just leave it and go, okay, cool, go do your thing and I'll come back. It's at that point, after you've done all the winding of the spring and building out your robust systems and patterns, that you can then get to the point where it's like, sweet, now I get to have fun. And that's what's happening for me. I'm starting to have a ton of fun with being able to just like whip through this. It's so much fun. There's still a lot of things that don't work, and that always happens when you go from a web app that's not really smart or thinking about anything to a web app that now has to integrate, right? Integration hell is called integration hell for a reason. But if you have a strong system in place, you can think and worry less about your UI and how it's configured and how it's composed and all of that, and spend all of your energy and your mental space on the integration part, because you spent the time and the energy making a system that supports you, instead of one that works to your detriment. Because if you just go, hey, go integrate this piece, and LLM will go do that. It will make something that works, but will it make something that you can later understand, read, and maintain? That's a different question. But if you set the pattern with things that you know how to use and you know how to maintain, very different, right? Very different. I'm just getting distracted here. Okay. And then dev tooling. That's the thing I'm working on right now, because dev tooling is so fucking useful when you have an app with a bunch of random data in it that's not really necessarily predictable, and then if you're able to inspect that data. The other thing I would recommend is something like the ability for users to just send the error to you. So I've built a system that's super fucking dead simple. All it is on any error boundary, when you get there, there is a button. Users can click that button. It sends the details of the error minus PII, because that gets scrubbed on the client. It sends that to a database, and then they get given a 9-digit code, or like it's like alphanumeric with symbols and shit. They get given a code and my email address, and then they can take that code and send it to my email address and go, hey, I was doing this and it broke. Here's my code. And then I can go into the database and I can actually look at their precise error and what happened. And then we can use that on the long term to develop trends and actually find problems. Because obviously a single report is not necessarily going to lead to something being able to be fixed unless you can reproduce it off that one report. But what it does allow you is, if you get like a year's worth of this data, you can get trends, and then if there's certain problem areas, you can just go look at those. And if that's a bunch of reusable pieces, the beauty becomes, once you fix it once, it's just fixed. It's just fixed. If you just do TDD and go, hey, let's do TDD, here's the problem, and then you write tests to match that problem. We all know how TDD works. I don't know why I'm describing it to you. Then you have now made your app more reliable, more robust, right? It's now that little bit better. Because of that test, that error won't happen again. That's the beauty of TDD. And LLMs can do that really well too. But you must build the systems first. If there's one takeaway that I can give you, if you want to build production-ready AI apps, well, apps with AI, like LLMs, then you must take the time and care to build a strong system first. It needs to encompass all the pieces that you want, and you need to set a strong precedent on what the pattern is that you want to follow. You need to have an opinion, and a strong one. Otherwise, an LLM will just tell you something, and if you don't know and you don't believe in yourself and you don't have faith in your vision, it will convince you to do something that might potentially be detrimental. So have a strong vision, build a strong system, and these LLMs will take you to the fucking moon.